Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer, holding it down on the East Coast. And we are running through some player props in this video for you guys. Going to take a look at some of those lines around the league and some of those players we think worth putting some money on tonight. Nate's got another great article up on playpicks.com, so make sure you check that out. Like and subscribe to this page, as well as we've got a couple other videos up for you, including a gift card opportunity in that Hawks and Nuggets game that we ran through. And as always, if you still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area. Nate, let's run through some of those games and props for tonight.
Yeah, pretty full slate tonight. We got Knicks -2 at Hornets, Bucks -2 at Celtics, Pistons +4 at Cavs, the Nets, as you mentioned, -9 at Pelicans, Kings -4 at Thunder, Suns -1 at Grizz, Blazers looking for that first road win, -6 at Rockets, the Mavs are -3 at the Spurs, the Hawks +4 at the Nuggets, got a full episode up about that. Bulls +5 at Warriors, really interesting game there. And finally, the Lakers -2.5 at home against Minnesota. I was close to just taking Bucks over Celtics tonight. As you know, I have my pulse on the C's. And while they've been great over their last 4 games, I think the shine of that motivation is going to wear off a little bit tonight. And the fact that they're missing Jaylen Brown is going to be a real problem as they go up against Giannis and a Bucks team that continues to get healthier. You just look at on Christmas Day when it's in Milwaukee, the Bucks are almost 7 points favorites already. I mean, they'll have Middleton back at that point, but for them to just be 1.5 at Boston, which, you know, this is a good starting point because the Celtics have a -10 net rating at home so far this year, just not necessarily getting it done in that small sample size of 4 games. And they certainly have not been able to stop Giannis, because who has? But without Jaylen Brown, even bigger problem. He's averaging nearly 30 points per game, 11.5 rebounds, 55% field goal shooting, and getting to the line 11 times over the last 3 seasons against Boston. I don't understand why he's even money to be the top point scorer tonight. Jason Tatum's the next guy, but he's only getting 18 points per game against Milwaukee in the last 3 seasons. He's been extremely erratic, a little bit more productive without Jaylen Brown, but the Celtics offense has been very herky-jerky, as I mentioned, not very good at home. Their defense, they're still 21st in point paints allowed and allowing the second most rebounds per game, along with the second most free throws per game. It all spells good stuff for Giannis, who, as I mentioned, even money for him to just lead this game in scoring, and for him to get over 38.5 points and rebounds, slight minus odds there, but I think, you know, he's going to get around 30 points, and then those rebounds pretty easy to come by in this type of game.
Yeah, for sure in the rebounds. And I mean, yeah, it sounds simple to say that the Celtics have had trouble stopping Giannis Antetokounmpo, because that's pretty much relevant to every team in the league the last 3 or 4 seasons. But this is an especially bad matchup for them, as you mentioned, especially without the length and strength and defense of Jaylen Brown down low. So yeah, this is a big hole for them tonight specifically. I trust your gut on taking the Bucks, to be honest, and I do feel really good about plenty of Giannis stats, specifically those getting even money for his points and rebounds is great, and then any of those player performance doubles that you can find on FanDuel specifically, just grab one, honestly, because I do think the Bucks have this one tonight as well. Moving to a guy who we haven't talked enough about this year, to be honest, but I'm really glad that we've got him in this episode, Evan Mobley, on those pretty good Cavs, I would say. I think they're probably pretty legit. Evan Mobley, someone who, you know, we've all been sort of looking at what's he going to do on the same floor as Jared Allen. They're different players. They have different games. And the arrival of Ricky Rubio is something that probably hasn't been talked about enough, as well, as he's played incredible for this team and also probably had a ton to do with Evan Mobley and how he's played tonight. They have the really bad Detroit Pistons, who have kept things closer to some games this year than we might have expected, only losing by less than double digits to some really good teams like the Nets, which is something good to be said for them for this year. But you know, this is one where the Cavs are coming out. They don't have any sort of lapses, in my opinion, considering that they're not, you know, expected to be good. So they're playing with a chip on their shoulder the whole year. And this is going to be an opportunity for Evan Mobley, where it's his first game playing without Colin Sexton. You know, and his usage rate goes way up as soon as you know, Sexton's not in the game. Something that I think we can expect to see tonight. You know, when he does get those minutes and he gets those touches like he had specifically against the Knicks the other night, where they did surprise them, he at 26-9. Really good Knicks defense, even though it's not as good as it seems to be last year. There's still plenty of low post presences down there to stop Mobley and keep him from getting to the basket. And that was not the case. And when you look at how bad Detroit is on defense, they allow the highest field goal percentage in the league and the second most defensive rebounds per game in the league. So they're not really cleaning up the glass on their side of the ball. So, that's not going to work against Mobley, who might have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, right? Since he was not the number one pick, even though the year before last he was expected to be that. And I think he's proving, it's right now it's between him and Scotty Barnes for who's rookie of the year. And I don't see Mobley slowing down on a team that keeps giving him the ball. As we mentioned, that usage rate for him is way up, especially for a rookie.
Yeah, so it's a second full game without Colin Sexton. And in that first game, his usage rate jumped from about 20% to 36%, which is ridiculous. And that's because you mentioned Ricky Rubio, much more of a pass-first point guard. You now have Darius Garland, who's also a pass-first combo guard, basically just looking to feed this guy. It's just going to be a lot more usage for him going forward. And like a lot of rookies, he's been more productive at home around the peripheral stats, more rebounds. So we like his 27.5 points and rebounds. And for him to just get 15 points in a win is even money at FanDuel. Nice player performance double there. The Cavs, as you mentioned, are just a little bit better than the Pistons at this point. And I'm not necessarily expecting the Rockets to win by any means. I think the Blazers finally do get that road win tonight. But you still got to respect the fact that they have the worst defensive rating on the road, 117, that this team is playing completely without joy, and that they are giving up the second most triples per game at the third highest clip. So a gunner like Jalen Green, who's shooting a lot better at home, is definitely a good bet to get over his 13.5 points props. Or on FanDuel, you can get plus odds slightly for him to get 15 or more points. Look, he's averaging 18.8 and shooting 40% from the field at home over 4 home games so far, but that's just way better splits than on the road. His usage rate climbs from 21 to 26% in those home games. And it's just a huge difference for a rookie, right? That just needs a little bit more positive reinforcement. That needs to feel a little more comfortable in the NBA. And he should feel plenty comfortable against this Blazers backcourt, which just is not good on defense because they're asked to do so much on offense. Houston's playing at the second fastest pace in the league, and at home they can dictate that pace a little bit more. So gotta like some props here. Blazers props aren't out yet, but I would have no problem going back to Damian Lillard, who's starting to consistently get over 25 points. And I think he will lead them to a win tonight, but Jalen Green will still get his buckets.
That's a fair assessment. And to be honest, if KPJ comes in and is also playing up to snuff, which he's been struggling a little bit lately, Jayshawn Tate actually has picked up a little bit of the snuff there too. I think there is some opportunity, honestly, to put a little bit of money on those Rockets. 6 points could be a little bit too much against a really, really bad defensive team on the road in Portland, specifically on the road. So yeah, loving the idea of this becoming a bit of a shootout, old school style when James Harden was on the Rockets. So we had some really good matchups here too. So yeah, loving the Jalen Green to come out 13.5 points. Feel really good about that, considering, as you mentioned, he's averaging 19 at home at this point. So one more guy to take a look at who will probably be running and gunning per usual is Russ Westbrook. And it's something that, we eyed in his game the other night where he had a triple-double. We talked about him briefly just because LeBron was sitting. So now you've really got the AD and Russ show going, specifically in LA, where nobody else really seems to be showing up right now. But Westbrook, against this Minnesota team has had a lot of success. I mean, in the 12-game sample size, his last 12, he's averaging about 29 points, 10 assists on 50% shooting against the T-Wolves, who we know are bad on defense. They started out hot on D against really bad teams and have since regressed back to what they are, which is the second worst defensive rating on the road, the second worst net rating during their recent 6-game slide that they're on. And Russ and what he does so far without LeBron this season, somewhat small sample size, but still 22 points, 10.5 boards, 10 assists a game without LeBron. Back to the Wizards, Russell Westbrook, that we definitely enjoyed last year at the very least, maybe not as Wizards fans, but basketball fans, it was at least entertaining to get a ton of those high scoring games, which is probably what we'll see tonight. And you talk about the pace that the Lakers hold when they don't have LeBron as well right now. And it's because Russ is the sort of heartbeat of that team. And it does work out for AD as well, to be honest, which is a big reason for those assists that Russ is getting is he's got the ball, he's driving into the lane, and AD, who doesn't really love to play with his back to the basket that much, is fine taking it and going, facing the basket 15 feet, getting the ball from Russ and going to the lane. So those assists feel really good. At the very least, though, him to score tonight, I think there's going to be a good amount of points in this game, and I do think Russ will be contributing to that at a pretty nice rate, at least 20 points in a win for the Lakers tonight, which I know we both think the Lakers should be pulling this one out. Plus 215 on your money for him to just get 20. Or if you like, 25 points plus and a win is 440. So an extra 5 points for Russ and that victory gets you double your juice there. So I would consider either, but definitely going to lay a little bit on those 25 points because, as we mentioned, averaging about 29 against this Wolves team that doesn't look much different than it's looked in the past couple seasons. Interesting
that a triple-double is supposedly more likely in a win, plus 330 for Russ than getting 25 points.
That's hilarious.
I mean, yeah, without LeBron the last two games, he has a triple-double in both those games, played 41 and 43 minutes, and the Lakers are second in pace over their last six, basically without LeBron.
Right.
The usage rate, again, what we follow here with these props, climbs from 26 to 32% for Russ when LeBron's sitting. And Rajon Rondo is going to be out tonight too, I think. So that just really gives Russ a lot of minutes against a really bad defensive team.
And we will always love to take Russ's, I'm not going to call them empty stats, but they're a little bit bloated at time because he's got the ball in his hand the whole time. And that's fine because we can pull a little bit of juice off of Russ being sort of the focal point at this point. Frank Vogel going, here you go, Russ. These are the keys. So probably LeBron handing him the keys, to be honest. But at any rate, that is all the time that we have for today. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page and check out that other video with the Nuggets and Hawks as we got a player props opportunity up there for you for Nikola Jokic. And until we see y'all again, happy betting.